in Birmingham for the Royal International Horse Show. First, we look back to the halcyon days of one of the RAF's oldest and most famous airfields, Tangmere.
I was learning to fly in 1917 when my engine conked out and I looked down and seeing a large expanse of green grass landed there. A man came out and I said, "Where am I?" And he said, "You're on Bailey's farm, Tangmere." When I had qualified, I was posted back to Tangmere and found it surrounded by canvas hangars and was an aerodrome.
At the end of hostilities in 1918, Tangmere was closed. It was reopened in November 1926. 13th of December. Number 43 Squadron equipped with Gloucester Gamecocks. HQ and 3 flights moved from Henlow to Tangmere. Squadron leader A.F. Brooke commanding. 28th of October 1927. Re-equipment of number 1 Squadron with Siskin 3A aircraft commenced. 31st of December 1927. Grand total of flying hours for year 1927 of numbers 1 and 43 Squadrons, 3,666. 11th of October 1928. Number 43 Squadron took part in the display at Hendon, given in honor of His Highness the Sultan of Muscat and Oman.
43 Squadron had a great reputation for aerobatics, and I think 43 Squadron was the first squadron to tie together formation aerobatics, mainly to practice people in having full control of their aeroplane in all sorts of attitudes for air fighting. We were a fighter interceptor squadron, and one of the exercises was a battle flight climb to 20,000 feet. There you had to write something on a pad and you tried to do aerobatics. And when you got down, you couldn't believe what you'd written, all due to the lack of oxygen. You wrote a load of rubbish. Well, I believe somebody later went straight into the ground from a battle flight climb at 20,000 feet, and it was thought that he passed out and leant forward on the stick and never recovered. He was killed. So they stopped doing battle flights to 20,000 feet, and when I left, it was 16,000 feet without oxygen. There was quite a lot of social life around. It was a very comfortable mess because it hadn't long been built, centrally heated, and an extremely pleasant mess.
1st of February 1932. Number 1 Squadron re-equipped with Fury aircraft. Grand total of flying hours for numbers 1 and 43 squadrons for year ended 31st of December 1933, 6,437 hours. Grand total of 1934, 6,126 hours. Grand total for year ended 31st of December 1935, 5,127 hours. For year ended 31st of December 1936, 28th of July 1937. 6 Fury aircraft of number 1 Squadron proceeded to Zurich to take part in the attack. 13th of May 1938. Air Chief Marshal Sir H.C.T. Dowding visited Tank. 1939.
Ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received.
3rd of September 1939. Great Britain declared war on Germany. Following units were stationed at Tangmere on the declaration of war. Station HQ, number 1 Squadron, number 43 Squadron, number 605 Squadron. The undermentioned officers serving with Station HQ on this day. 9th of October 1939. Contingent of Women's Auxiliary Air Force arrived. Company Assistant Pocket in charge, having previously reported on 2nd of October 1939.
C'est l'amour qui s'éveille. Boum, il chante Loving Bloom.
That record brings back tremendous memories of Tangmere. 1939, we used to play it a lot on all the Charles Trenet records. I actually went there on the 2nd of October 1939 as a company assistant. Arrived, was greeted by the RAF and sent up to the mess to have lunch. When I got there, I walked up the path and all the pilots, the young pilots, were out there having drinks. And to my horror, they all sort of turned and stared at the first WAF officer they'd ever seen. I was in uniform. And so, of course, I just turned tail, I'm afraid, and bolted and went into luncheon in Chichester because I just couldn't face all these fellows whom I really got to know later on and were perfectly all right. Well, about a week later, a contingent of WAFs arrived from Brighton, where they'd all been recruited. They were all volunteers. Nobody had pressed them to join. A lot of them had come from extremely sheltered homes. They really didn't know what they were going to have to undertake. They were equipment assistants. They were transport drivers. They went into the airman's mess and the sergeant's mess as cooks.
Well, this is the first place where I ever worked, in Tangmere. My sister and I joined up solely on the thought of there being just pilots here. We never thought there was anybody else, any airmen. We thought they were all glamorous pilots with big boots and leather jackets, and they were all going to come rushing at us as soon as we came in. But I ended up in here on the strength of the fact that I'd made minced sauce when I was a girl guide. That was all we could do because we couldn't type and we couldn't drive, so we thought we'd cook. And that's how it happened. And I was so awful that the pilots christened me Hitler's secret weapon.
12th of April 1940. Blenheim aircraft arrived at Tangmere to form fighter interception unit under the command of Wing Commander Chamberlain.
I found the signal, said I was to report forthwith to Tangmere to command and form the fighter interception unit. I got down there, I think on the 19th of April, and on the morning of the 20th, a signal arrived to report to Commander-in-Chief, it is Sir Hugh Dowding, at Bentley Priory, right here. And at the appointed time, I was ushered into this room, and there for the first time, I saw my Commander-in-Chief, Sir Hugh Dowding, and I spent about an hour and 20 minutes, yes or no, so 3 bags full, while he gave an extremely erudite and full description of the problem. And he explained to me that the shortcomings of the present airborne radar, AI Mark III, I think it was, AI Mark II, I forget which now, and the Blenheim, and the problems that I'd meet, and that the AOC number 11 group, Keith Park, would give me absolute priority, particularly at night in the Tangmere sector, for all the things we had to do. I said, sir, I wonder if I could have a memo on this thing to remind me of my task. He said, look, you've been told what to do, get on with it. I said, yes, sir. And I went back to Tangmere, and that's what we did. It was hard work. And on what I think was the 23rd of July, 1940, 3 months after we'd started, we had our first success. A Blenheim of the fighter interception unit shot down a Dornier, somewhere off Brighton, as far as I remember.
16th of May, 1940. Number 238 Squadron formed at Tangmere with Hurricane aircraft. 16th of August, 1940. Bombing raid. Between 1300 hours and 1320 hours by approximately 17 Junker 87 and other enemy aircraft.
We could hear this awful howling noise, and we looked up into the air, and there was this thing seemed to be coming straight down upon us, and we rushed like mad, and we managed to push into the air raid shelter, and then all hell let loose. There were bombs falling everywhere, rubble falling on us. Everybody was rocking as if we were in a ship at sea. The whole dugout was moving, mess and dust everywhere, and there was our sort of hurricane lamp flickering round, and everybody was sort of crouched over. And one girl who was an avowed atheist kept calling on God, which rather cheered me up. But eventually this died away, and the sort of shocks and rumbles and bangings died into the distance, and we at last emerged into the air to find absolute devastation. Everything, Tangmere as we'd known it seemed to have disappeared.
Following casualties were sustained. 10 service personnel, 3 civilians killed, and 20 personnel injured. Following buildings were destroyed. All hangars, workshops, stores... The pressing situation was dealt with in an orderly manner, and it is considered that the traditions of the RAF were upheld by all ranks. And the station remains operational. Sergeant's Mess, RAF Station, Tangmere, Sussex, 19th of August, 1940. Dear Phil, sorry that I have not written before, but I have had so little spare time during the past few weeks, and I always feel so dead tired when I'm off duty. I expect that Ma has already told you that I am with Fighter Squadron on the south coast, and what a hot spot it is, too. We are the busiest section in the group at the moment. For 5 days a week, we have to stay on the camp all day, every day. And the 6 days, free for us to go out where we please. Even so, we never get away on time. I hear that Lionel has been home on leave. I expect that he was ready for it too. I hope that you both had a nice time. Well, I must close now, Phil. So cheerio and all the best. Your loving brother, Dennis.
I was serving with 213 Squadron, and we came to replace 43 Squadron, whose home base this was. They'd had a pretty bad time of it. In fact, we hadn't done too well. We'd lost 5 or 6 people in the Battle of Britain up till then. There seemed to be an awful lot of scrambles, as they were known as in those days, mostly to intercept people who were coming in to raid Portsmouth and the area. It was generally done in flights or sections, that's 6 or 3 aircraft. We had learnt a few tactics in the early days in the squadron, but once you got up there and you met the opposition, there really wasn't much you could do about it. It was really every man for himself. Probably it's true to say that the longer you'd been flying in the Battle of Britain, the more experience you got, and you got it that way. My final demise came whilst I was based here on September the 15th, 1940, when we took off for a patrol over London, and I was finally shot down east of London, Maidstone, where I finished up by bailing out round about tea time, I seem to recall.
I became a radio telegraphist in the ops room. We would see them all go out, see the fighter aircraft going out, and then some of us who had boyfriends in the squadron would be standing there counting them back in, and then some wouldn't come in, the same number wouldn't come back, and there'd be terrible tension, and you'd hear the sound of weeping used to permeate throughout the barracks sometimes. It was very sad.
Dear Helen, it was marvelous to get away for a few days to be with you all again. I hadn't realized how much I needed that rest. Every day was flying, flying, flying. Long, tiresome patrols, even longer, nerve-wracking waits for scramble, and then readiness when we get back after being shot to merry hell. I suppose you'll call me a moaning Minnie. But honestly, as soon as I got back from leave, the weather cleared and it now looks very blitzy. I was jolly glad to be away from here, though, when Jerry visited with a bomb or two. Chaos. He didn't get away without cost to his invincible Junkers, though. Some of the crews were taken captive, and I'm told the CO made them help clear up the mess on the drome. He hates Jerrys. I can't hate them. They're only men like us, just ordinary flyers doing their jobs. Anyway, enough of all that. When we come off state, I shall dash this off to you, and then I expect I shall get back to the mess to organize my room. It's quite acceptable, and I know you'll be pleased to know that it's not a hovel or a flea-ridden, rat-infested chateau as we had in France. Ever since then, you've been so concerned over the places I have to live. If only you could see this, I think it would put your mind at rest. I'm in the West Wing now. Top of the stairs, third on the left, room 24. That's me. When 601 were here, it became Millionaire's Row, so it's well appointed. My love to you all. Tell Betsy I shall think of her on Thursday. Stuart. '18th of March, 1941. Wing Commander D.R.S. Barder, DSO, DFC, posted to Tangmere from number 242 Squadron as second in command of the station. 13th of August, 1941. Wing Commander Barder, missing from an offensive patrol, was today officially reported a prisoner of war. 27th of February, 1942. 12 men from 161 Squadron were today billeted in Tangmere Cottage.
At Tangmere, we were hidden away in Tangmere Cottage, and most people on the airfield didn't really know what we were there for. 161 Squadron had this special clandestine Lysander flight Our job was to land in occupied France to pick people up. And we found Tangmere a very good advanced base because it was well on the way to all the fields that we used to land on. But once the operation had been agreed by the Air Ministry, we had to wait for an available aeroplane and a good moonlit night in the target area. The fields we used in France had been found for us by specially selected agents whom we had trained. We had to teach them how to lay out our little flare path, which was 3 bicycle lamps or pocket torches in the shape of an inverted L. Now this flare path was 150 yards long, and the first light was about 100 yards from the near hedge. It was designed by one of the first agents to go into France and his pilot while they were dining together at a restaurant in the West End. And during the whole of the rest of the war, it was never found necessary to improve on it.
28th of February, 1943. A company of the Windmill Theatre, London, came to Tangmere and gave 2 performances, one at 18:30 and the other at 2100, both in the Tangmere Theatre. of June 1944. Briefing started at 23:30 and carried on to 0100 hours, or, in other words, the day for which everyone has waited for so long. Yet in some ways it seems rather an anticlimax. Everything seemed rather quiet and there was little noticeable excitement, probably due in this case to a desire not to be unduly optimistic. 14th of July 1944. Today has been a red-letter day in the history of Tangmere. His Majesty the King, accompanied by Her Majesty the Queen, visited the station. At 11:30 hours, they were greeted outside the officers' mess by Group Captain W.J. Krisham. Their Majesties then drove to the perimeter, where numerous officers were decorated. After the investiture, Their Majesties inspected RAF and WAAF personnel and visited the dispersals. Lunch was taken in the officers' mess. The royal party left the station at 1400 hours. May 8th, 1945. Victory in Europe. The station is quiet. It seems so different to those early days in the war. Our totals are enemy aircraft destroyed, 811, probably destroyed, 245, and damaged, 432.
In 1949, I was lucky enough to be posted as a station commander to Tangmere. But when I got there, I was viewed with a certain amount of suspicion as having spent most of my time at Model Command, and they wondered what the hell had come to command a fighter station, particularly as it was reverting back to its peacetime pre-war role with both 1 and 43 squadrons, who had been traditionally always based at Tangmere, and then they were joined by 29 Squadron. Before I got there, Tangmere was the home of the high-speed flight, and in 1946, Group Captain Teddy Donaldson secured the world airspeed record in a Gloucester Meteor at 616 miles per hour.
The CNC of Fighter Command has has ordered us to attack the world's speed record, and these are the 2 officers that he's nominated to help me do this. And this is Squadron Leader Waterton, and this is Flight Attendant Duke.
And then after I'd left Tangmere, Neville Duke came back as a civilian, and he was then the chief test pilot of Hawkers, and regained the world airspeed record from the Americans, flying a Hawker Hunter, supported by Hawkers and the Royal Air Force. In 1970, I was in the Ministry of Defense, And regrettably, it was my department, really, that had to make the sad decision that the Royal Air Force had no further requirement for Tangmere as an airfield. And it was a sad day, because it was an extremely happy station. It was one of the stations in the Royal Air Force that had lots and lots of tradition, which is something that the Air Force can not afford to dispense with. And it certainly was about 2.5 years of the happiest time that I'd had in the Air Force.
There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see. I'll never forget the people I met braving those angry skies. I remember well as the shadows fell, the light of hope in their eyes. And though I'm far away, I still can hear them say, thumbs up. For when the dawn comes up, there'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover tomorrow, when the world is free.
My brother was shot down in the year 40 when he had 23 years. They made a raid on the airport of Tangmere and he was killed with all his crew. There were found in Britain many people who did show respect, humanity and fellow feeling. We know that the graves in Tangmere are cared for with much love. Also Mrs. Pittman puts flowers. The men that died too young found a good, quiet and honest place for their last repose. The earlier enemies have found together their peace.